Part 63. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 630. A man in his 40s was talking. He turned his face and glanced behind him. He was shocked when he saw Lu Feng's gloomy face. But he is also an old man. Pretending not to see it, he coughed and said, "I think Mr. Lu is a very good person. You said that the business world is dominated by people of our age, and young people should also have their time, right?" "That's right." The other one was just about to scold when he felt that something wasn't quite right, so he glanced back quietly and hurriedly said, "Yes, the back waves of the Yangtze River push the front waves, and young talents are the theme of the era." In less than 2 minutes, everyone understood that only the short man was still scolding. "You bastards, what's wrong with you guys? What are you afraid of? Don't say he's not here. I'm not cowardly here. I've lived for so many years, and I'm afraid of him. It's ridiculous. Drink from the glass. Don't say a few words. Don't drink and be silly. I'm not talking nonsense. The best end for GFN Electronics is to be decomposed. Garbage like Lu Feng should be put in jail." He obviously saw that everyone's faces were wrong, so he winked at him and said, "Your faces, what's wrong? Did you have a stroke?" Lu Feng reached out and patted his shoulder. "Don't shoot me." Lu Feng reached out his hand and turned him around. His eyes met. The other person's eyes were full of shock, and he stared blankly at Lu Feng for more than 10 seconds. "Aren't you going to beat me?" Lu Feng said to him. "I'm here to give you this chance." He was embarrassed. His Adam's apple moved a few times, and said, "I'm older than you, at least you have to call me uncle." "Where's Uncle Nima?" Lu Feng raised his hand and slapped the other person on the back of the head with a slap, and said, "Don't drink some wine in the future, just be silly, relying on yourself to eat 2 more bowls of rice, just fill it up here. Senior, get away." The other party was not tall, and he couldn't stand still after drinking some wine. Lu Feng slapped him back and forth again and again, especially the sound of smack, which sounded very painful. The venue was not very big and there were not many people. The slap here directly attracted the attention of the audience, and they all turned their heads to look. Hao's Haihei saw Lu Feng coming, and he beat people as soon as he came, stood up and shouted, "Who asked you to beat people here? Who is used to your troubles?" He walked over as he spoke, and a group of people followed behind him, as if he wanted to stand out for this person. More than half of the people in the venue gathered at the door, and guests passing by outside looked in and thought it was a group fight. Where did Yang Yan experience this situation? At most, he quarreled with the leader, surrounded by so many people, and the sweat on his forehead came out in an instant. Quietly preparing to step back, Lu Feng noticed him long ago, reached out his hand and pulled him over, and said in a low voice, "What are you afraid of? I'm here." Standing behind Lu Feng, Yang Yan took deep breaths and told himself not to panic. He couldn't fight. "Mr. Hao is also here. He's a cheap mouth. What does it have to do with you when I clean him up?" Lu Feng asked Hao's Haihei. "This is my brother." Hao's Haihei took a step forward, put his arms around the short man, and asked, "Why did you hit you?" "I just said GFN Electronics can't do it," the man muttered. "You heard that too," Lu Feng said towards Hao's Haihei. "This slap is not a loss, right? Let's put 1 yard into another. You can say that GFN Electronics is not good. You can absolutely say that his company is not good. It's hard to convince the public if you do it directly. I'll pay you back for him," Hao's Haihei said as he raised his head. With a slap in the hand, he greeted Lu Feng. Lu Feng had been guarding him for a long time. He squatted down and avoided him perfectly. Yang Yang, who was standing behind Lu Feng, suffered disaster and slapped him firmly on the head. Snapped. Yang Yan was staggered, and subconsciously raised his hand and head. Seeing that he hit his own people, Lu Feng stood up and shouted, "Go to Nima, dare to hit my manager, I'm tired of life. As he spoke, he raised his hand and greeted Hao's Haihe's face. People around him quickly stretched out their hands, some wanted to do it, some wanted to pull the frame, and a dozen hands stretched out at a time in the small space. Don't fight, isn't this a joke? Give me face, give me face. Separate them. If you want to fight, you can go out and fight. This is a gathering of the Chamber of Commerce, not a place for you to fight. Under the auspices of an old man in his 60s, everyone separated the two. Lu Feng tidied up his clothes, panted heavily, looked at Yang Yan and said, "Are you all right?" "Don't worry, there is me." "Have you?" Yang Yan suddenly felt that the young man in front of him didn't seem to be a thing. He was not reliable at all. It wasn't him who was slapped. Of course he could calmly say that there was me. "Mr. Lu, should I go back first?" Yang Yan couldn't help asking. "It's all right, stay at ease." "What can he do to me?" Lu Feng patted him on the shoulder and said, "I'll avenge you, so be optimistic." Hao's Hepeng saw that the eldest brother's clothes were deformed a little by Lu Feng's pulling, and the beads on his neck were all torn off. He immediately refused to let them go. He stood up and shouted, "It is extremely rude to hit someone if you don't agree." Lu Feng originally thought he was here to scold him. Seeing that he was wearing a pair of glasses, he seemed to be a literate person. He sneered, "I beat people? If he doesn't talk behind his back, can I beat him? Then you shouldn't beat people either." Hao's Hepeng seemed to have grasped this point. "I shouldn't have beaten people? How many of you, the three brothers of the Hao family, have beaten people? Sanchang Logistics has harmed the entire industry, raising idle people in society, and coercing the boss of a small logistics company to solve it with me." "What did you say just now?" Lu Feng Chao he shouted, wearing a pair of glasses. "What kind of literate person? It's just a group of beasts that eat people and don't spit bones. Are you qualified to talk to me?" "You," Hao's Hepeng's face turned pale and shouted, "we are a private enterprise and follow the principles of market economy. Whoever cooperates with you is their freedom, but it is GFN Electronics in the past 2 years. If anyone in the market has violated you, if you want to, you will rush into the industry and wantonly squeeze acquisitions. What a market economy, those little bosses are surrounded by 4 or 5 evil spirits. What the hum is called a market economy? What business do you do in your heart? Tell me this with a big face? I tell you, you have to talk about it. Conscience, to be a business, you must be more conscientious, and be careful of retribution." Lu Feng pointed at him and said, "I ask you, who are the main customers of the 3 logistics companies Yongchang, Jinchang, and Tianchang? Of course it is an enterprise. We mainly cooperate with large enterprises to help them carry out logistics exchanges for a long time and jointly build a beautiful home." Hao's Hepeng's high profile is really high. "Okay, what's the price?" "As far as I know, you are mainly responsible for the transportation of electrical appliances in the city. Among them, TV sets, electric fans, and radios of major brands are the mainstream, and a stair truck is loaded with them. It's full of goods. How much does it cost from the province?" "You don't need to say, I know the data. Your price is to throw away the driver, the car, the road maintenance fee, the fuel fee, the room and board, and even the driver's tobacco and alcohol money. The net profit for one trip is 2,008. The net profit is 2,800 yuan. I want to buy a stair to pull the goods. Others also have trucks. The net profit does not need 2,800, 800 yuan. A lot of people are willing to run, you tell me. What the hum is a market economy, explain it to me." Hao's Hepeng was already sweating on his forehead when he was asked, and the scene was quiet because Lu Feng was telling the truth, and the 3 logistics companies were making huge profits. These transportation costs are ultimately passed on to consumers. Who doesn't envy these 3 logistics companies? The wheels turn, Gold is 10,000 taels, it's purely personal wealth, the three brothers are much richer than Lu Feng. Don't be stunned, this Mr. Hao will explain to me, what you said about the market economy, and then explain again, what you said about building a beautiful home. Lu Feng raised his hand and said, everyone applaud him. Only Lu Feng clapped his hands at the scene. Hao's Hepeng was already frozen in place, his tone was high, and now he was in a dilemma. Hao's Haihei also saw that someone like his brother was not Lu Feng's opponent at all. He regretted not bringing Hao's Haiping here. When Hao's Haiping came, opening his mouth and shutting his mouth was a ball, but Lu Feng didn't say a word. Mr. Lu, isn't it because Golden Bee Logistics has not done well? I asked you to come here for dinner, not for quarrel, Hao's Haihei said, pulling his brother aside, and then said, people have to get used to accepting failure, after all the backer is gone, and the days of failure are to come. Backer, Lu Feng said to him, I have never depended on anyone until today, even if it's that who won't let me get involved in this world. Why don't I change a place? There are a lot of leaders outside. What about me, who told you that Golden Bee Logistics failed? President Lu still doesn't admit defeat, a ruthless expression flashed across Hao's Haihei's face. Why should I admit defeat? It's up to you to fight fiercely? It's up to you to know Deminged, Lu Feng laughed and said to the crowd, is the local business environment going to develop like this? It's settled, and I'm going to make a statement here today, next year's day will be the death day of the three of you. Hao's Haihei's face turned gloomy instantly. He came here today to show off his strength to everyone and tell everyone that Lu Feng had eaten his shit out of him, and secondly, he wanted to tell Lu Feng that you can't get involved in the logistics industry. Unexpectedly, Lu Feng didn't give up at all, and he would continue to fight to the death. In addition, what happened tonight had made him cruel. Looking at Lu Feng, Hao's Haihei sorted out his tang suit and said sadly, in that case, Mr. Lu has to be careful when going out. Really, Lu Feng was amused and said, go home and see the dog, maybe the dog's legs will be interrupted. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 631. The atmosphere at the scene was already a little tense, and everyone could see that Hao's Haihei really wanted to move Lu Feng, and the two tigers would definitely get hurt. Hao's Haihei had already made a decision in his heart. For a person like Lu Feng, he would not bow his head to himself without letting him feel pain. I've seen you being stubborn, but Jiafeng Electronics was really rampant before, but I tell you, the good days are over, Hao's Haihei said, took his eldest brother and called out. He wanted to be Lu Feng in front of him. He ordered brother Ba to rectify him, making Lu Feng panic all day long. No one answered the phone. Can't get through, Lu Feng said with a smile on his face, then keep fighting, I'll have something to eat first. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he walked to a table, called the waiter over to order some food, and ate it on his own. The second floor of Monopoly had turned into a mess of porridge. The performance was interrupted. Everyone else in the venue ran away. Brother Ba was bleeding from his head. I don't know how many beer bottles were greeted on it. The whole person knelt on the ground. His life is better than death. Wang Chendong's face was also bright, staring at the big brother in front of him. This used to be the person he needed to call big brother when he met, but now he looks like this. Continue to be arrogant, Wang Chendong grabbed brother Ba's hair and shouted, do you believe that I humming ruined you? I believe. Brother Ba looked at these young people, they were basically stunned young men in the 18th or 19th century. They were not afraid of middle-aged men in their 30s. People in this age group had a sense of measure. Small, dominated by bluff. Adolescence is not the same, that thing really kills you. What are you going to do? Say it clearly. Brother Ba knows that he has to live out tonight, and he will deal with it tomorrow. Get out of the city, Wang Chendong said to him, do you understand? Why should I get out? I'll walk around when I see you, okay, Brother BA still has to make money. He is the captain of security in Yongchang Logistics. Why did you get out? Because the city doesn't allow arrogant people like you to exist without saying a word. Wang Chendong picked up a beer bottle and smashed it on Brother Ba's head. Go away or not? Go away, I go away. Brother BA felt a buzzing sound in his head, a stream of heat flowed down his head, and his consciousness became more and more blurred. Lu Feng was eating, and people around him kept looking at him. They were doing business. Whoever made the money was not earning it. There were many people in the Chamber of Commerce who complied with Lu Feng. But people like Hao's Haihei are staring here, and no one dares to step forward. Money is something that is earned and spent. Hao's Haihei kept calling Pa Ji. The lack of news for a long time made him lose face, and he secretly thought in his heart that Brother BA has been a little disobedient recently, and he has to beat and beat. Taking the big brother and calling the company directly, the person from the security office answered the phone and said, "Who is it?" "I'm Hao's Haihei, where is your captain?" Hao's Haihei asked. Brother BA and President Ping went out to watch the show, and brought a group of brothers, the other party replied. Got it. Hao's Haihei hung up the phone. Since Brother Ba's pager couldn't get through, he would call Hao's Haiping's eldest brother. In a small Western-style building on the second floor, the lights were bright, and clothes were thrown on the ground. The room looked a bit messy. Under the gas lamp, Hao's Haiping was getting dressed, and next to him lay a little girl in her 20s, with a handsome appearance and eyebrows. Bring spring. Brother Ping, didn't you say that you are dissatisfied with your brother and want to take revenge on him? Hong Xing took Hao's Haiping's arm and said, I want to take revenge on him again. Get revenge, another day, Hao's Haiping said rudely. The two brothers in the Hao family don't treat you as their own family at all, and they don't have your share in important occasions. They don't feel sorry for you at all. Unlike me, I will feel sorry for my brother, but we should be careful about the two of us. If your third brother finds out, I'm afraid he will trouble you. Hong Xing took Hao's Haiping's arm and said, when will I take revenge on him next time? Why are you talking so much? Hao's Haiping found his trousers and said, you don't need to worry about the affairs between our brothers. Just keep your mouth shut. Don't try to sow discord here, you know. Understood. Your feelings for Hao's Haiping, I experienced it just now. Hong Xing picked up a cigarette from the bedside, lit one, and said, Hao's Haihei is also normal to you, I heard him last time. Said to kick you out. Where did you hear that? Hao's Haiping stood up and wondered. He was talking in his sleep. Huh? Hao's Haiping stayed on the spot. Hong Xing felt that she had missed the point, and hurriedly said, you are talking nonsense, you can go quickly, maybe he will come to me if he doesn't go home after attending the banquet. Hao's Haiping's main method of revenge for Hao's Haihei and Hao's Haiping's dissatisfaction was her, but at this moment he felt that even if the other party knew about it, there would be no ripples in his heart. This made him feel particularly frustrated, as if he had been humiliated. He really said he wanted to kick me out? Hao's Haiping asked. Brother Ping, I'm not afraid to make it clear. There are a lot of people coming and going. I followed Hao's Haiping, and he tried to be fresh, and the freshness was gone, so I wouldn't be popular anymore. You have to be self-reliant, don't look at other people, he is just a part-time worker. Hong Xing said, smoking a cigarette, you can figure it out for yourself. Before Hao's Haiping could think about it, the elder brother on the bedside table rang loudly, picked up the phone and said, who is it? It's me, your elder brother, where are you? Hao's Haihei asked. I. Hao's Haiping sighed in his heart, and after thinking about it, he calmly said, I'm in Hong Xing. The water pipe in her house is broken. I'll take a look. Where is Hong Xing? Hong Xing is also there. Hao's Haihei felt something was wrong. Hong Xing isn't here, I'm dancing at the ballroom. Hao's Haiping asked in a flat tone, brother, what's the matter? I can't get in touch with Tianba. You can find him for me, and let him bring someone to me. Today, I want to let Lu Feng know about the eyes of Lord Ma. Hao's Hai asked, Hongxing's water pipe, has it been repaired? It's done, I'll just ask someone to clean up the water. It's not a big deal. I'll go to Tianba now. Hao's Haiping hung up the phone as he spoke. Hao's Haipeng murmured in his heart as he listened, why is the water pipe in Hongxing's house always broken? Some time ago, the eldest brother went to repair it, and now the second brother has gone again. Hao's Haiping put on his clothes and hurriedly left with his belongings, but Hongxing's words had penetrated deep into his heart. He was just an outsider in front of the two brothers, not to mention that Hao's Hai was a very small-minded person, and he had two sons, the eldest son is in his 20s. The brother still clearly settles the account, and even more arrogantly about his cousin. After driving to Monopoly, as soon as I went up to the second floor, I saw a group of people carrying the unconscious Pa brother down. What's the matter? Hao Haiping called out. I got into trouble with someone, and brother Ba was fired by someone, so I have to send him to the hospital immediately. There was a group of people who came to fight without saying a word. A young man named Wang Chendong was too ruthless. Everyone was talking nonsense. Hao's Haiping didn't know what happened. Something happened. This series of things happened too quickly, it was impossible for everything to be a coincidence. He hurriedly sent someone to send brother Ba to the hospital first, and then called Hao's Hai to explain the situation. When Hao's Hai heard that brother Ba had someone do it, his face instantly became gloomy. He understood that Lu Feng's counterattack was coming. Lu Feng was sitting there eating, and the opposite Yang Yan had no appetite and couldn't eat it at all. He felt like he was caught in some illegal social group at this time, and maybe he would fight in the next second. Lu Feng wiped his mouth, looked at Hao's Hai and shouted, didn't I find someone to mess with me? I've already finished eating, what about the people? If I don't come, I can leave. The people present all turned their attention to Hao's Hai. The tyrant under him was a famous social leader. Why was there no movement today? Hao's Hai stood up and walked over, put his eldest brother on the table, stared at Lu Feng. Yang Yan became nervous, and sat back. He knew that Lu Feng was a ghost and might not be beaten, but he was beaten, and as for what he said to protect himself, he would never believe this kind of nonsense in his life. Lu Feng, that's okay. Hao's Hai smiled and said, I'm starting to reach out to the edge of breaking the law. You want someone to beat my security captain? This is going into Director Ma's arms. What are you talking about? Lu Feng stared at him suspiciously and said, I'm looking for someone. How can you slander an outstanding private entrepreneur in the province, one of the top 10 young entrepreneurs, and a charity entrepreneur? If you don't think so, you are courting death yourself, then don't blame me for being rude. Let's ride a donkey and read the songbook and wait and see. Hao's Hai snorted coldly and said to everyone, I hope everyone has a good meal at tonight's party. I have something to do temporarily, let's go first. Hao's Hai just left? Those present, look at me, and I look at you, and are somewhat unacceptable for this result. Hao's Hai can't do that. Didn't he mean to move Lu Feng? I guess he doesn't dare to move. Let me tell you, in the logistics industry, Lu Feng can't move him, and he won't even try to move others. Lu Feng is still amazing. Mr. Lu is still a cow. Listening to these words, Lu Feng looked at the few people who came to greet him after Hao's Hai left, and sneered in his heart, these people are also interesting, whoever wins will help whomever. I'm sorry, I have something to do temporarily, so I'll go first. Lu Feng stood up, waved at Yang Yanyi, and walked towards the gate. After getting into the car, Yang Yan sat on the co-pilot and took a deep breath, and said to Lu Feng, Mr. Lu, is it safe to go back? Don't have another car accident or something, I feel they can do anything. I think too much. Lu Feng started the car and galloped towards Jiafeng Electronics factory. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 632. On the way back, Yang Yan kept looking back nervously, but fortunately nothing happened, so Lu Feng seemed much calmer. Now Hao's Haihei has no intention of using this method at all. First, the risk is too great. Lu Feng is not an ordinary person. If something happens to him at this juncture, he will definitely investigate it thoroughly. People in the city may not be able to keep Hao's Haihei. Second, Hao's Haihei felt that he had caught Lu Feng's pigtails. He hired idle workers to beat up his company's security captain. This matter could be left to Ma Hun Tao to handle. It was almost 10 o'clock in the evening when Lu Feng came home. Zhang Xiaoyan had already slept, and he kept food for Lu Feng. Lu Feng said that he had eaten it, so he let Aunt Lu sleep. Zhang Fengxia hadn't slept yet, and walked down in her pajamas. "How's it going?" Lu Feng asked her. "Is it okay to have a stomachache?" "I'm not a gynecologist, what are you asking me for?" Zhang Fengxia said with a bit of laughter. "She can eat quite a lot these days. I haven't seen you for a long time, and I've gained so much weight." "It's becoming more and more feminine." Lu Feng sat down and said, "You persuade her to go to the hospital for an examination." "I've said what I have to say. Didn't Duo start school in a few days?" After Duo settled down, she asked me to accompany her to the maternity checkup. Zhang Fengxia took a sip from the water glass and asked, "How was the banquet?" "It's just like that. It's nothing more than eating, drinking, and making noise. Everything changes. I have to settle the logistics as soon as possible. It's useless to rely on my own promotion in the market." "Huang Yowei must make a move," Lu Feng said with a serious face. "He is a bastard now, and he won't move without a poke. There are rumors all over the place, saying that he is going to be transferred, and the meeting is about to be confirmed." "You said that he dares to move." Zhang Fengxia seemed to understand this kind of personnel transfer very well, put down the water glass and said, "At this time, doing too much doesn't count. Gong, if you do it wrong, you will be beaten with chickens, so it's not that he doesn't do it, it's that he does less and makes fewer mistakes." Lu Feng slapped his lips and sighed. "You still understand, I don't know so many ways. I know more about this than you. It's family reasons, forget about the rest. You sleep in one more room tonight." "Sister Xiao Yan let me sleep with her." Zhang Fengxia raised her eyebrows and teased, "I'll go up and hug you." "Wife." Seeing her like this, Lu Feng couldn't help laughing. He followed Zhang Fengxia's footsteps upstairs. The whole house was extremely quiet. Lu Feng sat alone in the living room, thinking about what to do next. For the first time, he felt that the time was so tight. It was a race against time. After the logistics tossed, it was handed over to Yang Yan for slow development. Then, he also had to look at the grouping, product array, and headquarters location selection, and then he had to talk to Shenzhen. Let the municipality talk more and focus on policies. Next year, the R/U0026D funding of the R/U0026D company will be questioned. At the same time, Liukan should be urged to establish a communication R/U0026D group as soon as possible, and to reach cooperation with domestic universities to further promote the gathering of undergraduate talents in the talent center. New actions should also be launched in international trade, and direct wholly owned foreign subsidiaries may not be enough, so they will need to find distributors. GFN Electronics is weak in technology. Next year, Lu Feng wants to make international acquisitions and buy some technical patents and talents. At the same time, the domestic competitive market will be extremely fierce, and he will also ask and take care of it. The most important thing is that, in terms of funding, it is inevitable to go to Xiangjiang next year, and the second round of financing can already be seen. Lu Feng was lying on the sofa and thought about it, and there were a lot of things in front of him. Behind these things, they represented endless meetings, endless signing, and endless errands, even if this was the case. Most of the problems, such as market expansion, publicity, brand marketing, distributors, internal management, partners, and branch companies, are all handled by Zhang Fengxia, Zhu Lidong, and Wei Yandan. Lu Feng was secretly thinking about the days in his heart. How many days are he busy now? After the child is born, he will not be obsessed with affairs, and he will spend more time with him when he has time. However, Lu Feng never dreamed that the road of life is tortuous and no one knows what will happen tomorrow, even if you are a rebirth. Hao's Haihei didn't go home, he went directly to the hospital and contacted Ma Hun Tao at the same time. Hao's Haihei, Hao's Haiping, and Hao's Hepeng were all gathered in the corridor of the hospital. Hao's Haihei smoked a cigarette and inquired. This time, a total of 17 people were hospitalized. It was a dead hand. Brother Ba has already been rescued and is still in a coma. After Ma Hun Tao arrived, he first asked his subordinates to open a case and asked, "This person's name is Wang Chendong, isn't he? I think it's pointless to arrest Wang Chendong." Lu Feng must have ordered this. Hao's Haihei said to him, "Just arrest Lu Feng." Catch Lu Feng directly? Ma Hun Tao hesitated. Without ironclad evidence, he would not dare to touch Lu Feng. The impact was too great. You can't arrest people without evidence. You have to be responsible. If he is involved in this case, he can be summoned tomorrow, but he still has to act according to the rules. Ma Hun Tao thought about it and said, "These bastards are easy to catch, they are in the city. Check out some of the entertainment spots here, and you'll know where they are. Then you've worked hard, get it back as soon as possible." Hao's Haihei looked gloomy like a pig's liver, and pondered, "I asked him to settle the bill today, and sooner or later the account will be settled with him. It's useless to be angry, take your time." Ma Hun Tao patted him on the shoulder, and gave 2 orders to his servants to leave. After Wang Chendong led someone to kill Brother Ba, of course, he asked the brothers to spend it well. When they arrived at the dance hall, all the policemen who rushed in just after they started drinking were detained and taken to the car. In the interrogation room, the strong light hit his face, and Wang Chendong was much more awake. "I'm asking you now, what were you doing 2 hours ago?" "I didn't do anything." Wang Chendong's eyes were dodged. "Did you organize the group fight on the 2nd floor of Monopoly?" "I didn't fight, I just came out to play." Wang Chendong lowered his head and simply didn't look at the other side. "Don't you dare to act like a big man? Why don't you just come out and hang out? Be quick, be a little man, can you? Let's just do it. Let me ask you, why did you fight with the bully?" "I didn't fight him." "Then why did you stab him with a knife?" the interrogator suddenly shouted and questioned. Wang Chendong was instantly blinded and defended, "I didn't stab him with a knife." "Then what did you use to fight?" the other party asked immediately, not giving a chance to think at all. "Beer bottle." He sat down opposite and said in a calm tone, "How many people did you take? Who are there?" At this point, Wang Chendong can only tell everything he knows. "You said you were ordered? What's your name?" "I don't know what his name is." "I don't know what it's called." "Is it Lu Feng?" "I don't know anything, I just met him once and has a phone number." After all kinds of physical evidence were collected, they were placed on Ma Hun Tao's desk overnight. Several people looked at these things, a piece of paper torn from a cigarette case with Lu Feng's phone number written on it, and there was nothing else left. Ma Hun Tao glanced at the time, it was already 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, and he sighed, "Lu Feng is not an ordinary person. He does things without leakage. It's getting late. Let's talk about it tomorrow." Hao's Haihei stood up and shook hands and said, "You must decide for me, he is too arrogant." Ma Hun Tao patted Hao's Hai on the shoulder and said nothing. He walked out of the office. The three brothers of the Hao family also went downstairs. Hao's Hepeng smoked his cigarette and said, "Brother, it's so difficult to get a Lu Feng, it's not all your words before. Disaster. There are not many people in the city who can fight with Lu Feng. If it wasn't for Huang Yowei who didn't want to take care of him, even Hao's Hai wouldn't dare to touch him. Let's all go back to rest and talk about it tomorrow," Hao's Hai ordered. What is Jianghu? Whether it's human, or fighting, some people say that the rivers and lakes don't exist, and some people say that the rivers and lakes are around. For Wang Chendong, the moment he was pulled up by Lu Feng, he stepped into the rivers and lakes with 1 foot. He was like a pop, passing through the sky of the rivers and lakes. Everyone saw his dazzling light, and also saw his destruction. The next day, the meeting of the Chamber of Commerce last night was still being talked about by people. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng was having a morning meeting when a police car honked its whistle and drove in. The car stopped downstairs, and 7 or 8 police officers came down, asked where Lu Feng was, and went directly to the conference room. Pushing open the conference room door, Lu Feng was taken aback by this sudden shock. Everyone turned to look. Zhang Fengxia stood up first and asked, "Who are you looking for?" One of them held a subpoena in front of Lu Feng and said, "We suspect that there was a vicious crowd fight on the 2nd floor of Monopoly last night. This is a subpoena, please cooperate." Looking at the summons, Lu Feng calmed down and nodded, "Can I go after this meeting?" "What meeting?" "Have a discussion with us." When one person was talking, he took out the handcuffs and wanted to torture him. "Wait a minute, you are subpoenaing, not detaining, you don't need to be handcuffed," Lu Feng said solemnly. "You talk a lot, let's talk about it when you go." "Did you run away?" The other party was talking, and he was handcuffed. In the company, his boss was kidnapped. This was definitely an explosive thing. Lu Feng went downstairs and got into the car. The whole factory was blown up, and everyone asked what happened. Zhang Fengxia hurriedly held a brief meeting with everyone, first stabilized, and refrained from spreading any rumors, and then she went to the local police station to call the police. How could such a burst of news be hidden? In less than an hour, the rumors had spread to Huang Youwei's ears. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 633. The news of the arrest of the chairman of Jiafeng Electronics swept the local business community like a hurricane. As long as the industry was closely related to Jiafeng Electronics, they began to inquire about the news. If something happens to Jiafeng Electronics, the industry chain involved will be too big. At least a dozen local companies must stop production directly, not counting the terminal sales staff. In this case, don't say that Lu Feng is not guilty. Even if there is something really wrong with him, he will first detain him, then stabilize the local enterprise, and then slowly release the rumors to the outside world. Huang Youwei called Secretary Kui in. Secretary Kui stood at the desk and saw Huang Youwei's unsightly face, and asked, "What's the matter with you?" "Lu Feng was arrested, you know," Huang Youwei asked. "I heard, but it seems to be a subpoena. Last night, there was a vicious fight on the 2nd floor of Monopoly. More than a dozen people were hospitalized, and the impact was very bad. The main criminal who was caught confessed that he had something to do with Lu Feng, and asked him to ask Kui." The secretary distanced himself and said, "I thought it was a summons, so I didn't tell you. But someone called me and said that they were detained in handcuffs." "Who did this?" Huang Youwei asked. "I don't know the influence of Jiafeng Electronics in the local area. What do you think about the companies that didn't come?" Secretary Kui said, "It was done by Ma Hun Tao from the south of the city." Chinnan, Huang Youwei still knows a lot about local private affairs. "You don't need to ask about it, you know it has something to do with Dimingd, or the logistics industry. Since it's a summons, It doesn't seem appropriate for me to speak out now, does it? Huang Yowei put the folder in front of him aside, leaned back on the chair and said, "It seems that I and Lu Feng are wearing a pair of pants, this time do less and make less mistakes, and do not do well." "He also has some ideas in his heart," Secretary Kui whispered, "forbearance. Go and tell Deming that he will be in charge of the vicious fight last night, and make a rectification for some of the local idlers." Huang Yowei gave a few words and said nothing more. "In fact, this is just a process." When these words reached Deming's ears, he felt that Huang Yowei was admitting cowardice, and Huang Yowei just wanted to wait for the meeting in the province. In the interrogation room, Lu Feng was illuminated by a strong light. He glanced at the environment around him. Lu Feng leaned there and said, "This is called a subpoena? Do you have a wrong understanding of subpoena? Don't talk so much, I'll just ask you, do you know Wang Chendong?" "I have an impression, but I don't know who it is." "You know, I have contact with a lot of people. When I am around the most, it is possible to go back and forth with hundreds of people a day," Lu Feng replied. "It's him." The interrogator on the opposite side picked up a photo of Wang Chendong. "Do not know. Did you give him money?" "I don't know. How to give him money? I have a lot of money, throw money everywhere?" Lu Feng laughed and said, "If I had this kind of personality, I should give you some money first. Seriously, I'm not kidding you. Why did you put money in the mouth of the lion in People's Park? How many times have I said that I didn't give money? How can you reason with guilt?" Lu Feng was speechless. "Then explain, how did Wang Chendong have your phone number?" "According to his confession, you happened by accident." The person on the opposite side explained the cause and effect. "I saw someone fighting on the side of the road. After I went down, I paid 10,000 yuan. How much did I burn?" Lu Feng said that he was happy, and said with a smile, "Thinking about it for a while, I think it is impossible. It's not true, it's not realistic. As for the phone number of my office, that number is printed on the business card and distributed everywhere. You don't admit to hiring someone to fight your competitors. You're just creating something out of nothing," Lu Feng said helplessly. "Don't play tricks with me here. Have you eaten yet?" the other party asked Lu Feng. "Eat," Lu Feng replied. "Where were you last night?" "Participate in the Chamber of Commerce dinner." "Did you wash your face last night?" "I didn't wash it." "What time did you sleep?" "It's 12 o'clock." "What time did you put the money in the lion's mouth in the afternoon?" I didn't let it go." Lu Feng looked at the two of them and said, "Just because I have my phone number, you all decided that I was killed, right?" The two people on the opposite side looked at each other in surprise. Wang Chendong had already explained it clearly and showed him Lu Feng's photo. He was 100% sure that it was Lu Feng, but now he couldn't ask anything. This type of interrogation is the most common type of questioning. At the beginning of asking something innocuous, your brain is in a relaxed state, and you blurt out the truth about these things, but as you ask, a key question is suddenly interspersed. The brain can't stop the car and it's bald. In the next hour or so, there were 3 different interrogations. Lu Feng's mouth was very strict, as if the memory had been deleted from his mind, and in the end he simply stopped talking. Ma Huntao never dreamed that Lu Feng actually had the ability to resist interrogation. The outside world had begun to make noise about the arrest of the chairman of GFN Electronics. At the same time, some reporters and media called here. He was angry with his subordinates in the office, and he wanted to go in and clean up Lu Feng, but he absolutely couldn't. If Lu Feng was missing a hair here, then something really happened. After Deming received Huang Youwei's call, he immediately called Ma Huntao. "How about it?" "There is no evidence, his mouth is very strict, except for a phone number of his office, there is nothing useful. I chatted with a few old criminal investigators, Lu Feng has already planned everything, especially when he is looking for a way when someone who has nothing to do with it does this. The two of them have only met once, and there is no corresponding set of clues at all. Ma Hun-tao said with a headache, I want to keep him for a while, okay. How long will you stay? For a week, pry his mouth open. No, absolutely not. You don't have the right to detain him for at most 2 hours. Huang Youwei has already given me enough face. If this is the case, you can't put me in for the sake of the three brothers of the Hao family, right? Deming said gloomily. Okay, I understand. After hanging up the phone, Ma Hun-tao stood up and walked towards the interrogation room. He pushed open the door and said to Lu Feng, thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Lu. That's it for today's inquiry. Director Ma, Lu Feng looked up at him and said, do you mean to ask questions tomorrow? Am I being questioned here for 2 hours every day? No, what happened last night was too bad. That guy bit you and won't let go. I'm also considering the safety of the general public. As for the handcuffs, we were too nervous, so let's loosen them. Ma Hun-tao with a smile, he said, the people below are ignorant, so Mr. Lu will take more care. After letting go of everything, Lu Feng stood up and said, isn't it because the people below are ignorant? If they move their mouths, you will have to run and break your leg. If something really happens, if someone breaks your dog's leg, you can. It's really worth it. Ma Hun-tao's face darkened, he snorted coldly and said nothing more. Lu Feng walked out of the gate on his own, took a taxi back to the factory, and appeared in front of everyone again. Hao's Haihei originally thought that this incident would be enough to sentence Lu Feng to 1.5 years, but he didn't expect that nothing would happen, which made him particularly unhappy. Although Jinbi Logistics didn't move, Lu Feng's actions kept going all the time. Everyone was working hard in secret. Whoever fell next would immediately occupy the logistics market. In the conference room, Hao's Haihei's face was extremely ugly. Several managers sat there and did not dare to speak. Hao's Haiping and Hao's Hepeng didn't say a word either. Everyone knows that Hao's Haihei was so angry that he dared to provoke him for half a minute, and he was waiting for the storm. Manager Hu Yang said hesitantly, Mr. Hao, I think. What the hum do you think? Hao's Haihei glared at him instantly, raised his hand and slapped his face, kicked his foot without saying a word, and scolded, I didn't see that I was in a bad mood, what do you think? Go to Nima. Of. Hu Yang was beaten and ran out of the conference room in a scrambling manner. Hao's Haiping's face was ugly, because Hu Yang was his manager, and the people who sat there, Hao's Haiping's people have always been the most bullied. Brother, things are already like this. It's useless to talk about a ball. Let's start from other aspects, Hao's Haiping said. It's all you. Hao's Haihei pointed at Hao's Haiping and said, what can you do? If you were with Tianba at the time, you would be a participant in this matter. As for being so passive now, what do you think? One day at night, what else do you know besides balls? Hao's Haiping's face darkened, he lowered his head and did not speak. What can't you do? You don't have anything left to eat? If it wasn't for your father's face back then, he pulled you, you are still farming in the village now. In special times, use your brain and help me share the burden. 1 point, don't think about money all day long. Go to Nima. Hao's Haihei cursed, kicked the chair with his feet up, and walked straight out of the conference room door. Hao's Haihei's abuse of Hao's Haiping has always been so straightforward and without any decoration, while Hao's Hepeng is better. Don't be jealous of eldest brother is also for your own good. If you talk too much, your heart is still good. We are a family, Hao's Hepeng advised, don't take it to heart, we will overcome this difficulty together. Hao's Haiping took a deep breath, let his heart down, and said to Hao's Hepeng, you know me, this person is big-hearted and carefree, how can he be jealous? I am such an old person. That's good. Hao's Haiping stood up and walked out of the conference room with an extremely ugly expression on his face. He first went to see Hu Yang and took him to the hospital for treatment. On the hospital bed, Hu Yang cried aggrievedly and said, "President Ping, before I finish speaking, I will fight. The three logistics companies say they are the three brothers of the Hao family, but we know in our hearts that we are raised by our stepmother." Hao's Haiping said to him, "It's all right, how can a man live under others for a long time?" Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 634. Hu Yang looked at Hao's Haiping at the moment, and felt a little different. What appeared under his rough appearance at the moment was not the kind of person who kept swearing all day long. Hao's Haiping just came out of the village in his early years. He was indeed full of foul-mouthed words and very rude, but he was only in his 20s at that time. More than 10 years later, he was still like this because he understood that he and Hao's Haihei were not possibly in a pair of pants. According to his words, it is rare to be confused. Hao's Haiping has been unhappy for many years. He goes to Hao's Haihei and Hao's Haipeng's house every year to give gifts, not only to them, but also to their grandparents, aunts and uncles and aunts. Moreover, what happened in the two people's homes was handled by him. Hao's Haiping's relatives said in private that he was a good dog from Haihei's family. How many grievances and crimes he has suffered over the years, only he himself knows. He is already in his early 40s, he has some money in his hand, but he is also a coward. Hao's Haiping has always wanted to do something, but there is no suitable candidate, and he has no culture, and he knows nothing about the law. The matter had developed to this point, he wanted to give it a shot. Lu Feng was definitely the most threatening person Hao's Haihei had encountered over the years, and Hao's Haiping also knew that as long as they lost Demingde as their backer, they would be doomed immediately. Lu Feng is backed by Huang Youwei. He still understands who is older and who is younger. Hao's Haiping is not stupid. On the contrary, he is smarter than anyone else. He knows that if he wants to join Lu Feng's line, it means that there is no way out, so he needs someone to act as an agent and buffer for him. The first thing Hao's Haiping thought of was Hong Xing. This girl said that being smart is not smart, but she is definitely not stupid. The key is that she is beautiful and it is easier to contact Lu Feng. He did what he said, and after leaving the hospital, Hao's Haiping went straight to Hong Xing's residence. "Wake up," Hao's Haiping pushed her with his hand. Hong Xing woke up from her dream, sat up and asked, "Brother Peng? Why are you here?" Hao's Haiping sat beside the bed, lit a cigarette, and asked, "I ask you, you don't want to live your life now, do you?" Seeing his serious expression, Hong Xing rubbed her sleepy eyes, her brain began to spin rapidly, she nodded after a while, and said, "What's wrong?" "Doing a big job, why are you interested?" "As long as you succeed, you will be able to live an immortal life in the future," Hao's Haiping said solemnly. After Lu Feng returned to the factory, his work continued as usual, and he continued to hold meetings as if he had not been disturbed. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. Papa is hospitalized. The three logistics companies have no minions, and there is not much climate. Lu Feng instructed Yang Yan to continue to promote and distribute leaflets for the previous logistics bosses. At the same time, the billboards of Jinbi Logistics have been damaged by many people in the past few days, and the marketing department is required to maintain them. A series of actions of Golden Bee Logistics are making a comeback. Hao's Haihei must have new actions. Otherwise, once the bosses of the small logistics companies see that they have not been retaliated against, they will immediately go to Lu Feng. At the same time, the low-price strategy of Golden Bee Logistics will also be quickly snatched the orders of the three logistics companies. As long as there is real free market competition, the 10 Hao's Haihei are not Lu Feng's opponents. He relies on Demingde for the top and Brother Ba for the bottom. These two moves are the guarantee for him to sit on the Diaotai. At noon, the weather was fine, and in the manner, Deming raised his hand and shot out with one shot. How's Hai, How's Hapeng, and Ma Hun Tao, who were standing beside him, applauded and shouted a good shot. Deming was a little tired, so he handed the club to the caddy and said, "There are some things, I can't rush it, it's like cooking, it needs to be boiled." Boil. How's Hai couldn't stand it anymore, he stepped forward and said, "You don't know how arrogant this Lu Feng is, it's fine if he doesn't take us people in his eyes, and he doesn't take you seriously, only Huang Yowei is in his heart. My man was beaten and is still lying in the hospital, his life or death is unknown. Also, this kid is very arrogant, and he is yelling at me in the interrogation room." Ma Hun Tao was also full of anger when he spoke. The three words that Deming didn't want to hear the most was Huang Yowei. He stood there and pondered for a while, and said, "You don't know the key, this Lu Feng still owes the local bank 200 million yuan, and Huang Yowei came forward to help him. Turning interest-free into a policy loan, he turned around and switched the company account to the post. These 200 million are pressed here. Speaking of my heart, even if I want to move him, I have to weigh it." When How's Hai heard Deming's words, he felt very aggrieved and couldn't help but said, "Could it be that his achievements made him so unruly? This person is rebellious. If he can swallow the logistics industry today, he will not know where he will move tomorrow. Maybe I don't even care about you. Yeah, if you don't beat and beat, he really doesn't know what it means to respect people," How's Hapeng said in a helpful voice. Deming took a deep breath and felt that they were right. After he went up, if Lu Feng continued to do this, it would be very difficult to clean up. If others followed suit, they would lose their dominance. No rules can't make a circle, each person has a rule. Deming pondered for a while, "It's time to beat and beat, let him wake up." "You're so right, such a large-scale enterprise should help small private enterprises like us, instead of squeezing our living space and getting rich first." How's Hai stood there and said with a smile, "Lu Feng should help poor people like us." "Mr. Hao is still poor," Deming said with a half smile. "It depends on who I compare it with. In front of you, I will become a company like GFN Electronics one day, and I will always follow you, because I know who gave it all." How's Hai flattered. Everyone chatted and laughed and went inside and started to eat. In the afternoon, Deming's car was parked downstairs in the municipal compound. As soon as he got out of the car, he saw Huang Yowei slipping his legs downstairs. He walked over to say hello. "Isn't Secretary Huang busy?" "Events, you can also walk with me for a while," Huang Yowei said casually. Deming was stunned for a moment, then agreed. The two walked slowly around the green belt of the building. Huang Yowei said, "There have been a lot of rumors recently. How did you deal with the vicious incident on the second floor of Monopoly?" "All the main culprits have been arrested, mainly a group of teenagers who have nothing to do. The main culprit is also in a hurry, biting people, biting out Lu Feng, chairman of GFN Electronics, and summoning Lu Feng, because of his aggressive tactics, causing a lot of business circles. People's comments have a particularly bad influence, so I quickly gave instructions to let Lu Feng go, and asked the following to make inferences and self-examination." Deming looked selfless. "You have done a very good job in troubled times. You must supervise the following levels in place, otherwise it will be a pot of porridge." Huang Yowei put his hands on his back and said slowly, "You said that this person is always full of dissatisfied desires. How much money do you make?" Deming didn't know why he suddenly said this, so he could only express his empathy and said, "The human heart is not enough for a snake to swallow an elephant, and there are not many people who can restrain themselves from the unfilled hole, that is, the legendary saint. Already. Who says it's not? If it takes a long time to restrain it, it's understandable. The key is that sooner or later, it's yours, so why grab it, degree, to give a good impression, but to be aggressive and disgusting?" Deming froze in place. He didn't expect Huang Yowei to speak so bluntly. These are some of my thoughts on the re-election of the Tianluo town team below the city. This matter is a warning to us. We must study and implement it in depth. For some people who are not firm in their thinking and are very happy, they must be stuck at the bottom. Huang Yowei Shen sound. Be sure to keep it in mind, Deming said solemnly. The two chatted for more than half an hour. Huang Yowei raised his hand and glanced at his watch, and said, "It's time to eat. I'm just drinking tea, reading the newspaper and waiting for dinner." Deming watched Huang Yowei go away, and heaved a sigh of relief. Before he could hit Lu Feng, he asked Huang Yowei to give some advice. In the evening, Lu Feng sat in the office and stretched out. He was really busy this day. He checked the time. It was after 5 o'clock in the evening, so he could go home early today. At the entrance of the factory, Hong Xing was wearing a long dress, her hair was loose in layers, and her hair was tied up in small braids. She looked extraordinarily delicate, and her feet were stepping on high heels, which made her whole person stand up a lot. The security guard is sitting in the security room, drinking tea and looking at Hong Xing. A woman who wanders all the year round will naturally have an indescribable smell on her body. Women may not feel it very much about women, but men, the kind of small movements that are revealed unconsciously can be felt. Lu Feng drove the car out of the factory, his eyes fixed on her for a moment, and the evaluation of Hong Xing in his heart was, "This bitch doesn't look like a good person." Hong Xing was carrying a small bag in her hand. She had been staring at Lu Feng's car for a long time, and instantly blocked in front of it. "What?" Lu Feng asked as he lowered the car window. "You're President Lu, right?" Hong Xing stepped forward and said with a charming smile, "I have something to do with you. Can we find a place to talk, anywhere, even a hotel?" "Humph," Lu Feng said with a chuckle, "despicable." After saying that she was about to leave, Hong Xing never thought that there was a man in this world who could reject her. In the ballroom, as long as the man she liked, she could get it with her fingers. "Wait," Hong Xing panicked and hurriedly said, "I have something very important to tell you about logistics." Lu Feng stepped on the brakes, looked at her and said, "If you have something to say, say it." "Can I get in the car?" Hong Xing said, and was about to open the car door to sit in the co-pilot. "No way." Lu Feng knew that it was an extraordinary period, but Lu Feng still had some vigilance. As long as he got into the car and the other party accused him of indecent assault or rape, he would have no excuses. "Then we're talking here," Hong Xing said helplessly, "it's a bit long, it's best to sit down and talk. There's a coffee shop on the street ahead, we'll see you there. Don't get in the car, I'll drive over and wait for you," Lu Feng said solemnly. "Then how can I get there? I can't get a taxi here." Hong Xing was already very irritable. "Run." After Lu Feng finished speaking, he kicked the accelerator and galloped away. Hong Xing stomped her feet angrily as she watched the butt of the car drift away. She had never seen anything like this before, and she cursed, "Dog man. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 635. Hong Xing is also an old stick in the arena. What kind of man has never been seen before? The dance hall is mixed with dragons and snakes. She can't handle it. However, this is the first time she has seen Lu Feng. Let a pretty woman run behind his car in high heels? Thanks for thinking about it. Hong Xing waited for a while. A little supervisor came out on a motorcycle. She chatted a few words and got in the car. The coffee shop is definitely the most foreign-style existence right now. There are not many in the city. Lu Feng sat in the shop and ordered something and waited. After a while, Hong Xing walked in, stuck his sunglasses in his hair, and swayed his body. Posture, high heels on the ground, deng deng sound. I'll give you 5 minutes, if you can't say why, I'll leave. Lu Feng looked at her and said. Mr. Lu, why are you so indifferent to a beautiful woman like me? I've been reading about you in the newspaper, and I admire you a lot today. I can't help but miss you. I want to wait for you at the gate of the factory. Thinking of you being so indifferent. Hong Xing's voice contained a bit of sadness and disappointment, which was really sad for the listeners, and tears for the listeners. If a man has never seen a woman, he should take the initiative to coax him at this moment, and then the other party will act like a spoiled child. I've also met a lot of people. I can see at a glance what kind of person you are. Talking about logistics. Lu Feng looked at the time and said, there are still 4 minutes. Hong Xing has never seen such a man. I really like you. Why don't we go to the dance hall at night? Let's dance, drink some wine, and talk slowly. Hong Xing wanted to continue to test. What do you think this is? Lu Feng stretched out a hand. Hand. There's another dialect nickname, it's called Dabduzi, Lu Feng said with a gloomy face. What big bag? Hong Xing didn't understand. It's the big ear photon. Hong Xing was speechless. Of course, she wanted to get on the big boat of Lu Feng. First, Lu Feng was much younger than the 3 Hao brothers, and he was not bad. Second, Lu Feng was richer than them and the company was bigger. However, now it seems that the indifferent man on the opposite side does not look like a man, and he does not pick up any hookups, just like a ruthless working machine. I know the 3 brothers Hao's Haihei. Hong Xing could only say straight to the point. She believed that Lu Feng would really leave in 5 minutes, and said, I can give you some information about them. What information? Lu Feng looked at her and said, which of them are you your lover? How do you know? Hong Xing was shocked. If it is relative, they must be a whole interest group. Hong Xing will never betray these 3 brothers. As for the enemy, it is also unlikely. If the enemy knew some key information, he would have done it long ago. In addition, she showed such a slutty side, and even with her toes, she knew that it was a lover relationship. Guess, what information can you provide me, and what do you want in exchange? Lu Feng took a sip of the coffee in front of him and asked. Hong Xing has always felt that she is a very talkative woman. She can deal with any kind of person in the night scene. She dare not speak lotus flowers, which is considered to be flattering. However, in front of Lu Feng, she has become unable to speak. Always so straight to the core. I can provide you with some evidence of the Hao family's crime. One thing is, you can't kill all 3 companies, you must keep one, and you have to give a very good contract. Hong Xing thought for a while and said, I won't tell you which one, you should understand me. Hao's Haiping's house. Lu Feng looked at her with a smile, like a fool. You, Hong Xing was already at the scene, her mind was about to shut down. She felt that the other man seemed to see everything in her mind, and said in amazement, how did you know? The 3 brothers of the Hao family, Hao's Haihei is the eldest, Hao's Haipeng is his younger brother, Hao's Haiping has always been unpopular, and Tianchang Logistics under his name only owns 49% of the shares, and the internal division is not a day or 2. The only thing is that the network and the fist are maintaining. I know who it is with a little brain. Lu Feng leaned back in his chair and said, go back and tell Hao's Haiping that Golden Bee Logistics is not trying to annex the entire logistics industry, but to help these logistics companies grow up. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng drove away, leaving Hong Xing alone to sit there blankly. When she was in the ballroom, she always thought she was a smart person. But he acted like a fool in front of Lu Feng just now. Hong Xing felt terrifying just thinking about it when he was with such a person. He knew what was going on in your mind. It's safer to stay with the 3 brothers of the Hao family, at least they don't seem to have any brains compared to Lu Feng. At dinner time, Hao's Haiping and Hong Xing had a meal together, and briefly explained the matter. During the dinner, Hong Xing said to Hao's Haiping, I think it's scary to work with such a person, maybe people sold me, and I have to count the money for them. How's Hyping sat across from him and didn't speak. He was silent for a long time and said, let's see, whoever wins will I help whoever. This is the business card he left behind, Brother Ping, I've done so much for you, you can't abandon me, Hong Seeing said to How's Hyping whistling. Don't worry, I won't miss you. How's Hyping took his bag, took out 2 bundles of banknotes and threw them on the table. Take the flowers first, if you dare to say this, what will happen to you, I can't guarantee it. Hong Seeing took the money, felt the heavy weight in her hand, and instantly said with a wide-eyed smile, Brother Ping, I know what we are saying between us. Don't worry, I'll go to the ballroom to play first. Go. After Hong Seeing left, How's Hyping sat there alone and thought about it. Over the years, he had indeed accumulated a lot of materials in his hands. If he handed over these things, it was enough to keep the brothers How's Hai and How's Hapeng from getting out of prison in their lifetimes. Involve him. At this age, he wants to land safely, but the operation is very difficult, and now he can only continue to wait. At the last moment, if Lu Feng wants to win, he will talk to Lu Feng, otherwise these things will be lost. Continue to lock in the safe. In the morning, the local business community also thought that Lu Feng was over. With How's Hai's network, it was easy to get in, but it was extremely difficult to get out. Everyone can feel that the two sides have fallen into a state where no one can do anything about the other side. No one knows how long this will last. Diming chatted with Huang Yowei a few words, and then walked back to the office. He didn't want to help How's Hai too much and involve himself in it, but it was impossible not to help. After thinking about it, the best result of this matter is to have a chat with Lu Feng, and the two sides will reach a settlement and give each other a step. Lu Feng had already arrived home and put on big pants, short sleeves with 2 belts, slippers, etc. Aunt Lu was busy cooking in the kitchen, Zhang Xiaoyan was pouring vegetables in the yard. As for Duo, the school started soon, and she was making up her homework while crying. Woolen cloth. Things in the alley came to an end temporarily, and Chen Hansheng and his wife stopped running to the house, but Mr. Hong felt that his position in the alley was challenged by Lu Feng. Recently, Chen Hansheng and his wife stopped giving him gifts. After being depressed at home for several days, Uncle Hong decided to chat with Lu Feng. No matter what, his age is here. Taking advantage of the cool night wind, the old man came out with this little pony, and after being polite with everyone, he walked towards Lu Feng's house. Is Lu Feng there? Uncle Hong asked, looking at Lu Feng who was sitting at the door. Yeah, just came back. What's the matter with you? Lu Feng asked him. I used to be a leader, not to mention my age. Dad, call, I'm looking for you, Duo shouted. I'll take a call first. Lu Feng stood up and walked towards the house, took the phone from Duo's hand, kicked her lightly and said, go and do your homework. Which one? Lu Feng, right? I'm Diming. The voice on the other end of the phone was rather brisk, sounding a bit intimate. Diming smiled and said, call your office and say you're off work. Really, I envy you private entrepreneurs, you can get off work whenever you want, unlike me. Unlike you, you can go to play during work hours. Lu Feng snorted unceremoniously. The other end of the phone was stunned for a moment, and said in a straight voice, stop talking about this, there is no need to be so unhappy between Jinbi Logistics and the 3 brothers of the Hao family. It's not good for anyone if it goes on like this, it's just to make money. Why can't we get along with money? It's also difficult for our municipal government to be caught in the middle. Is it the municipal government, or is it you? Lu Feng heard what he meant, and said, if you continue to want to make peace with me, then it is totally unnecessary. Even if you are temporarily cooperating with the 3 logistics companies, wait until you are free. It is not so restrained. The Golden Bee Logistics can be dismantled in an instant, and this kind of delaying strategy is meaningless. Then what are you going to do? Diming was already speaking in a good voice, He even felt that he was humming, and shouted, "Lu Feng, don't be ashamed, put yourself in the right position, what are you doing? Talk to me. How am I talking to you? What? I have to kneel when I make a phone call." Lu Feng scolded the phone without giving in at all. "Don't hum me here, I've never seen such a great leader. If you really want to make the industry better, don't do these fake things. I will cooperate with him today, and you will have nothing to fear tomorrow. What should I do? You don't trust me at all, do you really think I'm afraid of you?" Deming's face turned purple. He shouted, "I think you are courting death. Threat me? Curse me? I'll go to Nima, you can yell at me for anything. I don't care what leader you are, I'll tell you, if Jinbi Logistics can't do it, the three brothers of the Hao family will continue to control it. Next year GFN Electronics will be completely withdrawn, and the factory will be returned to your local bank. I will put it here, if you can't do it, I can definitely do it," Lu Feng said to the phone. "Finally, I will send you a word, go home and sell it. Go sweet potatoes, damn it." After speaking, Lu Feng hung up the phone. He was very popular. When he went out, he saw Uncle Hong carrying Mazza waiting at the door. He walked over and said, "Uncle Hong, you just said that you are a leader. What do you want to say? Who did you scold on the phone just now?" Uncle Hong asked curiously. "Mayor." Without saying a word, Mr. Hong turned around and left with the Mazza. "This old man, why did you leave?" Lu Feng chased out the door in a puzzled manner and asked, "You are a leader, what's the next sentence?" Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 636. Lu Feng watched him walk away, as if he was still muttering something. He didn't chase after him to ask any more, just said that the old man was very interesting. He turned around and went home for dinner. Deming slapped the table angrily. When any local businessman saw that he was not respectful, he had to speak carefully. Even if he went out to eat, there were a bunch of people around him, toasting to him one by one. However, Lu Feng didn't take the set at all, which made him extremely unhappy. "It won't help you to improve your memory." Deming lit a cigarette. He knew what Lu Feng's trump card was, didn't he just evacuate the locality? If GFN Electronics withdraws after Huang Yowei leaves, it is his responsibility to sit in that position, but if GFN Electronics withdraws before Huang Yowei leaves, then it has nothing to do with him. He does not allow such arrogant entrepreneurs in the city. If others see it and follow the example, he will not be able to control it. Besides, if you really want to clean up a private enterprise, it is not a matter of a sentence. Picking up the phone on the table, Deming called the market supervision. After saying a few words, he gave an instruction, that is, to conduct random inspections on all products of GFN Electronics. If there is no production batch number and other problems, it will be sealed. After the phone call, Deming felt that he did nothing in return, and seemed to be at a loss. He is a person who pays attention to giving and receiving, and he has the blood of a businessman in his bones. After thinking about it for a while, he called Hao Zhihe. "Who is it?" Hao Zhihe answered the phone and asked. At this time, he was selecting the beauties in the clubhouse and waved his hand, "Change another batch." "It's me, Deming." "I'm sorry, I didn't hear your voice, what are your orders?" Hao Zhihe stood up hurriedly, and said with a hunched waist, "I'm outside, you can give me your orders." "Zhihe, I've been thinking about our friendship today. We've known each other for 7 or 8 years, right?" Deming asked slowly. "Yes, I met in the county in 1985. You were the deputy county magistrate at that time. I just started doing logistics." "It's really fast." Hao Zhihe didn't know what the other party meant for a while, so he could only sigh along his words. "A few years. Yeah, it's been a long time, although it's not a real brother, but it's almost the same. I think what Lu Feng has done to you makes me feel uncomfortable. Bullying you, isn't it just not giving me face? Deming seemed to fight for him. That's right, it doesn't matter if I suffer a little bit of grievance. The main reason is that it hurts your face and makes such a fuss. People like this need to take care of themselves. Hao's Haihei showed a touch of excitement on his face. He could sense that things were going fast. Done. You have to look at how to clean up. By the way, your sister-in-law has been talking about it recently, saying that she wants to eat some soybeans from the countryside, and she wants to grind soy milk. Can you do something? Deming's voice changed. No problem. This matter is covered by me, and the matter of Lu Feng. Don't worry, if you don't do good deeds, you will be punished. I see. Hao's Haihei was polite for a long time, hung up the phone, and stood there thinking carefully. Soybeans. Grinding soy milk. Soybeans must be money. Grinding soy milk. Soy milk is milky white. Hao's Haihei pondered for a while, then suddenly understood, slapped his thigh and said, "Call your manager, I want to open a card." A few minutes later, a young woman in her 30s walked in wearing a professional attire and said to Hao's Haihei, "Mr. Hao, you want to open a card, you have a member here. Make another one, save 1 million in advance, and it's called Mo Soy Milk, you know," Hao's Haihei ordered. "No problem," the manager's eyes were almost gone from smiling. The next day, the logistics war, which lasted for more than a month, ushered in new progress. The Municipal Supervision Bureau officially launched a rectification action to conduct a large-scale random inspection of electronic products on the market to ensure the safety of people's livelihood and electricity. All products must be complies with the latest country requirements. Although it is said to be a comprehensive random inspection, all the products subject to random inspection are GFN Electronics products. Lu Feng has relatively strict product requirements, but the current production line, personnel quality, transportation environment, etc. are not so strict. In the morning, 3 batches of GFN Electronics were found to be unqualified in terms of packaging design. The product design was relatively sharp, and it was easy to stab infants and young children. The Golden Leopard VCD card was serious, and a batch was seized after complaints from users. A batch of obscene discs. As of noon, there were constant news that all the local direct sales stores of GFN Electronics had been closed down. Such a big move frightened many people. But people at the scene could see that this was an action against GFN Electronics, because at the gate of the GFN Electronics outlet, there were people selling yellow discs on 3 wheels. No, I sent someone to buy a VCD, and then, under the guidance of the clerk, went to a small shop in the back street and finished the pot. For the local business community, this incident is a super earthquake, because if such strict requirements are followed, few companies can pass the test, and everyone's buttocks are not clean. In the office, Hao's Haihei couldn't help but smile on his face, smoking a cigarette and saying to everyone, "See, let him give me a try again, what is power, let him see the power of power today." Hao's Hepeng leaned on the chair with a relaxed expression and said, "Brother, do you think GFN Electronics will be destroyed this time? I want to tell you, after this incident, we can't continue to be accustomed to him. As long as GFN Electronics is alive, all cargo transportation must pass through our hands. This is a good proposal. The cargo flow of GFN idea is still very large, especially the delivery to the port. It earns us millions of dollars a year. Isn't it easy?" Hao's Haihei the happier he said, the more he felt that his time was coming. Hao's Haiping was not in a good mood. He sat there and squeezed a smile and said, "I just said, GFN Electronics is just a ball, what the hum do you want to do with us, what can he do this time? Break the ball for him." There was a constant chatter in the conference room, and everyone was very happy. In Lu Feng's office, as long as everyone in the factory came, Zhang Fengxia, Zhu Lidong, Yang Yan, and some other senior executives. There were more than 20 people, and the office was packed. It's all closed, find faults, and seal it. According to the feedback from the marketing department, many of them involve phishing law enforcement. Zhu Lidong looked gloomy and said solemnly, "My suggestion is to call the police, collect evidence, and go to the court to sue the Municipal Supervision Bureau. This is forcing us to go. I've never heard of anyone doing such a great job. Don't they all ventilate in advance, rectify and rectify, eat, drink, and drink?" Everyone was talking. Lu Feng knew that it was Deminged who did it, so he didn't believe it. Huang Yuwei was lying flat and waiting for Gao Shen, and asked Zhang Fengxia, "Did you call Huang Yuwei?" "Not yet. I'll call him, I'll do my own thing, I'm here." Lu Feng waved to the crowd and asked Zhu Lidong to go to the local outlet. He called Huang Yuwei's office. "Who is it?" Huang Yuwei's voice on the other end of the phone was not very refreshing. "Me, Lu Feng," Lu Feng said solemnly. "I knew you were going to call me. What are you doing down there?" "Infighting," Huang Yuwei shouted at Lu Feng. "Can't you let me live in peace for a few days?" "I can live in peace, but the tree wants to be quiet and the wind is not enough. Besides, I have blocked so many terminal sales points. Who am I going to provoke? If I need slippers under such circumstances, then I think there is absolutely no need for me to compromise." Lu Feng said to the phone, "I understand you, but you have to understand me too. Today is the first day of early September, and there are less than 2 months left for the meeting. If you have to come up with something, have I helped you enough? Have I done enough over the years to favor you enough?" Huang Yuwei yelled angrily. "I didn't embarrass you. Whenever you go to a meeting in the province, don't you always stare at the 4 characters of GFN Electronics? We have achieved each other. You can't say, 'You need to be quiet now, others bully me, I will suffer even if you are bullied.' You can't make a sound, right?" Lu Feng said in a very aggrieved heart. "You can figure it out. What do you want me to do? What should I do? Should I let Deminged get out of the way? I have the ability to let him get out of the humming first year." Huang Yuwei yelled at the phone, "Personnel appointment and dismissal power. Why are you here? Have you thought about me a little? You can think about me a little, and when I'm gone, do what you like. If you have a big temper, you should think about yourself." Then I also made it clear that GFN Electronics will not be able to stay in this state. We are considering a complete withdrawal." Lu Feng said solemnly. "I will leave without an explanation. You go." Huang Yuwei is one of the first two. Now that GFN Electronics has an accident, it is fatal to him. He sighed and said, "Don't go, what is there to talk about? Let me tell you briefly, how do I go? First of all, the factories and machines are no longer needed, and the debt of 200 million yuan will be directly paid to the local bank. Then, I will beat the gongs and drums to find the next suitable city, and I will definitely." It was a few years ago. After listening to the movement on the phone, Lu Feng said tentatively, "Then I'm leaving." "Ugh." Huang Yuwei sighed, helplessly, and said, "I'll let someone unblock you now and go through the process." Lu Feng suddenly thought of Hong Xing and said, "Tell me the truth now, do you really still want to do something? If you really want to do something real for the local people, I think I should be able to find it. Some evidence of the 3 Hao brothers, Deminged and Ma Huntao." Huang Yuwei raised his head, with a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes, and said in a low voice, "Okay, look for it as soon as possible. When will you find it, and when will you unblock your outlet store?" Huang Yuwei hates Deminged for not a day or two. This person is like a stinky fly, ruining a pot of porridge. When Huang Yuwei first came, the other party obeyed everything on the surface, but he kept making small moves in private, and he dragged out the progress of many things. If he wanted to do something, he had to nod his head. After Lu Feng came, the GFN Electronics project was about to set sail. Huang Yuwei toasted Deminged at a banquet, and this was considered a smooth progress. Otherwise, what happened to Lu Feng in Xiaoli village wasn't that simple. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 637. Huang Yawei hung up the phone and immediately called someone to organize a meeting. After a while, Secretary Kui walked in and said to Huang Yawei, "All of them have been notified. Did Deming inform you too?" "Notice, Secretary Huang, do you want to warn him at this meeting?" Secretary Kui asked. "His movements have been a little big recently." Huang Yawei took a deep breath, took out a cigarette from the drawer and lit one. The situation was a bit complicated now. After smoking for a while, he said, "Forget it, if you can't bear it, you will be in a mess, and take out the direct sales store of GFN Electronics. Just recover." Secretary Kui nodded in agreement. "The overall situation is the most important thing, you have to endure it. The outside world is already buzzing. Such a big move is unique to GFN Electronics. There are indeed many recent incidents, one after another. Other electronics companies were a little flustered at the beginning. According to the investigation and punishment of GFN Electronics, there is no private enterprise in this city that can pass the customs." On the stomach. In an office, several bosses gathered together to drink tea. "This is really a fight between tigers, scaring us bastards to death. Don't you know, I just heard that the City Supervision Bureau had seized the direct sales store of GFN Electronics in a random inspection this morning, and the whole person was scared to death. Ha ha ha, if GFN Electronics fails to pass the random inspection, the electronics industry in the whole city will be closed. It's been getting louder and louder recently. There's a feeling of endless death. What is the origin of the three brothers of the Hao family? With such a big commotion, I feel that Lu Feng can't handle this wave. This is not something us mortals can spy on. I have the latest news. There is a meeting in the city." After everyone had a conspiracy theory, they drank a cup of tea, and they had a calm feeling of sitting and watching the storm. At the conference, Huang Yawei's face was ugly. Deming sat beside his left hand and looked at his nose and heart, as if the whole thing had nothing to do with him. Huang Yawei patted the table with his hands and shouted, "Who asked you to investigate? Is there such an investigation? Who instructed your investigation? If you don't give me an explanation today, get out of here." The person in charge of the Municipal Supervision Bureau turned purple, and glanced at Deming quietly. How dare he say that it was ordered by Deming? Deming said slowly, "Who takes the lead, who is responsible, you can say, no matter who it is today, this responsibility must be put on the individual's head, and strict investigation must be carried out. The panic caused by local enterprises is long-lasting, of course. You are also based on investigating and punishing fake and shoddy products. Your responsibility is understandable, and you can safely say that I and Secretary Huang will support you." Deming's words were beautiful. The person in charge of the Municipal Supervision Bureau gritted his teeth and lowered his head. "I made the decision, I didn't have time to report it. My original intention was to correct the market. I didn't expect the following to be out of shape. My fault. You can do anything with me. What can be done?" Huang Yawei slapped the table and cursed. The scene was silent. Deming helped persuade him, and the big things were turned into small things. "Immediately, cancel it for me," Huang Yawei ordered. "Eliminate all adverse effects." After the meeting ended, Deming walked side by side with the person in charge of the Municipal Supervision Bureau in the corridor, and the two spoke in a low voice. "What should I do?" "I'll remove the seal now." "Remove? Carry it for me, can't you bear this?" Deming reprimanded in a low voice, and strode forward. GFN Electronics, Lu Feng is eating in the cafeteria. He is not panic, but some managers in charge of the local marketing department are already anxious like ants on a hot pot. Level to level, Lu Feng contacted Huang Yawei, and the managers and distributors at all levels below have their own relationships, so a huge network of relationships has been formed. In some areas, the store manager has a good relationship with the executor. The front door is sealed, and the back door is open to continue selling. On the second floor of the cafeteria, Lu Feng was sitting there eating. Zhu Lidong opened the door and walked in, sat aside with a bowl of rice, and said, "Mr. Lu, I have news. Demingde and Huang Youwei are not dealing with it. It's a little difficult for us to do this." "I know." Lu Feng put down his bowls and chopsticks and said, "Don't worry, what are we afraid of? When I was just making a profit in May and June this year, the finance department asked me to repay the 200 million yuan to reduce the company's debts. Fortunately, I didn't pay it back. Or else it will be slaughtered now." Zhu Lidong thought for a moment, then said with a smile, "It's still your thoughtful thinking. I'm not as good as you in many aspects. It's not a thoughtful or inconsiderate thing. Many municipalities are like this. You go to the local area for inspection. The leaders tell you to go ahead and flatter you. You don't need you anymore. You are a fart." Lu Feng sighed. He sighed and said, "Everything has to be spared, and the unblocking will not be finished in a while." "Didn't you say there is already a meeting?" Zhang Fengxia walked in and said eagerly, "I thought it would recover in the afternoon." Lu Feng knew that now Demingde just wanted to get ahead. This was a process of changing and growing. Unless he was knocked down, GFN Electronics had to withdraw from this path. "I'm going to do some work this afternoon. Does anyone have Hao's Haiping's contact information?" Lu Feng had been waiting for Hao's Haiping's call, but he couldn't. In addition to the current situation, it is obviously towards the Hao family's three brothers. It is impossible for them to help someone who is not as good as their own. After dinner, Lu Feng sat in the office and wondered how he could draw Hao's Haiping over to make him feel that Demingde and his gang were about to dump the building. Lu Feng had not done this kind of thing for a long time, and suddenly he wanted to use this trick again, which was a little tricky. The meeting in the city has long been spread among some of the top figures in the business world. Everyone was waiting to revoke GFN Electronics' punishment, but after the meeting in the morning, there was still no action until after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. "It's over," the people from the Municipal Supervision Bureau didn't move. Huang Youwei's words are useless. Let me tell you, GFN Electronics is really coming to an end this time. Without Huang Youwei's protection, what kind of thing is he? What kind of bullshit young entrepreneur? What is he relying on? Don't you have any points in your heart? People don't cancel it, they want to kill him completely. Let me tell you, let's walk around with Demingde more recently. This person doesn't need Huang Youwei. I see it too. There are countless similar conversations on the phone. Hao's Haihei was also worried that the seizure of GFN Electronics would be revoked, but there was no movement until after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and his face gradually filled with an insolent smile. Sitting in the office, with both feet on the desk, smoking a cigarette, picking up the phone on the table and muttering, "Make a harassing call." Then he called Lu Feng. "Hello, Mr. Lu," Hao's Haihei asked with an unstoppable smile on his face, "how is it? I heard that there is a meeting, and the seized goods need to be cancelled. Is it cancelled?" The voice on the phone was so harsh, Lu Feng listened to Hao's Haihei's words and said, "What are you babbling about? What the heck? I'll let you remember, not everyone can mess with you. When you're doing things in the future, keep your eyes open. You can't stand up to the tough stubble. It'll improve your memory." Hao's Haihei took a sip. "Cigarette, drink, remember. Mr. Hao, if you walk too much at night, you will definitely meet ghosts. Besides, if you want to play, you should play a little bigger. Where are you going? Call me now and declare your victory, too. It's early, I'll tell you, Golden Bee Logistics has to continue." That's all. Lu Feng hung up the phone after he finished speaking. Hao's Haihei listened to the beeps on the phone, and his face was a little ugly. He had never seen such an ignorant person. If this was the case, then he might as well stage a car accident for Lu Feng on the day Huang Youwei was transferred. At this moment, most of the local business community is watching the jokes of GFN Electronics, and some people even called and insulted the little girls in the General Affairs Department who were in charge of answering the phone. It is nothing more than that they were not allowed to enter the supporting industry chain of GFN Electronics at the beginning. Now that GFN Electronics is suffering, of course, they are excited to fall into the trap. After 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng sat there thinking for a while, and suddenly thought that he could get a copy of the internal information for Hao's Hyping to see. Thinking of this, Lu Feng instantly had an idea in his mind, picked up the phone and called Zhang Fengxia and asked her to come. Zhang Fengxia pushed open the door and walked in, asking, "What's the matter? You are from a veteran cotter's family. You should have seen the red-headed document, right?" Lu Feng asked her. Zhang Fengxia was stunned for a moment, feeling that something was not right, and said cautiously, "What do you want to do? Can you print a few copies?" Lu Feng raised his eyebrows at her. "How many copies to print? That thing has no text at all, you can't find it on the market at all, and the font is also exclusive to the country. If you print it out, it is to prevent counterfeiting," Zhang Fengxia explained. "I know, fonts, formats, and these are not available on the market. If you can find someone to draw them and then copy them, wouldn't it work?" Lu Feng said to her. "Quickly find someone who can draw. It's your responsibility if something goes wrong, don't use me as a gunman again," Zhang Fengxia muttered. "No problem, let's go. Also, have you found Hao's Hyping's contact information?" Lu Feng asked. Zhu Lidong went to inquire. It shouldn't be a difficult task. Zhang Fengxia was about to leave, and just opened the door. Yang Yan pushed it open and walked in. He smiled at Zhang Fengxia, said hello to Mr. Zhang, and then walked towards Lu Feng. "Mr. Yang? Why are you here?" Lu Feng wondered. Yang Yan has not been here for a long time, and more things have happened than he has been in the state-owned enterprise for more than 10 years. Now the outside world is saying that GFN Electronics is about to die. He didn't want to stay. "Mr. Lu, I want to say goodbye to you." Yang Yan sat down and said, "A lot of things have happened recently, and now it's on the cusp. The personnel framework of Golden Bee Logistics is basically done, or you tell me, where is Muojijia Group Co., Limited? I will visit you in person, so I can't bother you anymore." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 638. Yang Yan has been observing the situation of GFN Electronics. He feels that he is working here on the verge of death. The trouble was so big, he felt that he told Lu Feng to leave, and the other party would understand. Hearing that he still wanted to leave at this juncture, Lu Feng suddenly felt a little unhappy, and said, "Mr. Lu, I've been a little busy recently. You're always afraid of wolves before tigers, what's the matter?" "Son. Mr. Lu, I've been here for a while now, and now Jinbi Logistics has completed the personnel integration as a whole, and some managements of various departments are basically in place. If I stay longer, I will soon become the person in charge of Jinbi Logistics." "Yes," Yang Yan said with a somewhat embarrassed expression. "Did you listen to something from outside?" Lu Feng looked at him and said, "Don't listen to people. Did someone tell you that GFN Electronics is going to collapse?" Yang Yan could see that Lu Feng didn't want to let him go, sighed, and simply spread it out and said, "Mr. Lu, people have not fought against officials since ancient times, and I'm not optimistic about the current situation." Stop, since you also think I can't do it, then you just sit and watch, don't delay. You're going to work in that company, I have to let you watch. How did I turn a defeat into a victory? You have other things, son. There is none left." Lu Feng stood up and said to him, Mr. Yang, you understand the truth of being a monk one day at a time. I hope you will take care of the Golden Bee logistics, and leave the rest to me. Yang Yan nodded with worry written all over his face, stood up and walked out, sighed as he walked out the door, not at all optimistic about Lu Feng being able to bring down the three brothers of the Hao family. Now can only wait. There are also people in the local business community who are thinking the same as Yang Yan. This time is different from before. Huang Yowei is not supporting it. Lu Feng is a big city, and it is not worth the words of the leader. After 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Zhang Fengxia walked in with a wad of paper, put it on the table and said, "But it doesn't matter to me, what is going to be printed on it?" Lu Feng glanced at it, and he had to say that it was really professional, just like the real thing. The prepared manuscript was placed on the table from the drawer, and the title was, "Regarding the Serious Handling of Issues Related to Comrade Deminged, Internal Secret Documents." Zhang Fengxia took a look at it and said with a smile, "It's quite professional." "Print these out, is Hao's Haiping's phone number going to be found?" Lu Feng asked. "Here," Zhang Fengxia handed over a piece of paper. Lu Feng nodded and called according to the number above. Hao's Haiping was sitting in the office. He knew everything that happened today, and he just sighed in his heart that he was afraid that he would never have a chance to get rid of Hao's Haihei in his life. Just after sighing, the phone rang, picked up the phone and said, "Which one?" "It's me. Lu Feng." Hao's Haiping hung up the phone without saying a word. Lu Feng listened to the hang-up sound on the phone, and called again. When the other party heard Lu Feng's voice, he didn't speak at all and hung up. For Hao's Haiping, the last thing he wants to see now is Lu Feng. If Big Brother knew that he had contacted him, he would not want to get involved in the logistics industry, and he might not know what to do with him. Lu Feng made 7 or 8 calls in a row, but the other party didn't give him time to speak. Lu Feng knew in her heart that the other party didn't want to have any contact with her at this time. After thinking about it, she thought of Hong Xing when she chatted with Hong Xing last time. She told Lu Feng that she would go to the Tianlang Grand Ballroom every day. Half an hour later, Lu Feng sorted out the documents, put them in a briefcase, and instructed Zhang Fengxia, "Go back and tell Xiao Yan, and say you won't go back for dinner at night." "Where are you going?" Zhang Fengxia asked in confusion. "Go to the ballroom." In the evening, people came and went at the entrance of the Tianlang Grand Ballroom. At this moment, it was a good time to cool off. Some girls dressed in thin clothes and walked into the ballroom with a smile on the man's arm. It took less than 10 minutes for Lu Feng to park the car on the side of the road. 3 or 4 girls came to chat with him. Lu Feng was a little annoyed when he refused, and his eyes were constantly scanning the crowd. After a while, I saw Hong Xing stepping on her high heels and walking towards the side with a twist. She was indescribably charming. The men on the street were all staring at her fiercely, as if she wanted to. "It's like staring out eyeballs." "Hong Xing Lu Feng shouted as he got out of the car. Hong Xing followed the voice and looked towards the side. When she saw Lu Feng, she was overjoyed. With a smile on her face, she stepped forward and said, "Mr. Lu, are you here on a special trip to wait for me?" "Or else," Lu Feng smiled at her and said, "I was busy with other things a few days ago, and I was a little irritable, don't mind." "How could it be?" Hong Xing also looks at people. Of course Lu Feng doesn't mind. If he is a poor ghost, he would mind very much. He said to Lu Feng, "Go in and jump for a while." Lu Feng leaned on the car and looked at her. "Would you like to go to your house?" Ah, Hong Xing didn't expect the progress to be so fast, and her face showed unprecedented shyness, and said, "Is this progress too fast? The times are accelerating. You get in the car, I'll tell you something." Lu Feng opened the door and sat in the driver's seat. Hong Xing swayed and sat in the co-pilot, and the men squatting on the side of the road smoking cigarettes were full of hatred. "Damn rich man. Bah, isn't it amazing to be rich? Wait until I get rich someday. Don't worry, a few of our brothers are designated to make a fortune in the future. Lu Feng sat in the car and asked Hong Xing, can you call Hao's hyping out? Brother Ping, Hong Xing was stunned and said, didn't he want to see you? Yes, we admire each other, but we have never met. I have been thinking of meeting him in a special way and giving him a surprise. If this happens, you will definitely make a big contribution, Lu Feng said, opened the glove box, took out a bundle of money, put it in her hand and said, what do you think? Hong Xing looked at the money, with a smile on her face unconsciously, and said, why are you embarrassed about such a thing? It's okay, this amount of money is a lot for you. For my brother, it's no different from $1 or $2. This is how rich people make friends, Lu Feng said to her, let's give him a surprise, you invite him to your house, don't say I'm here. Okay, Hong Xing nodded and agreed. The car sped away towards Hong Xing's house. Hong Xing is just an ordinary person. Her information is very closed, and she has no idea how much has happened recently. She only knows one thing. Hao's hyping really wants to know Lu Feng. She never dreamed that in such a short period of time, it had already reversed in 2 levels. When I arrived at her house, the house was a mess, underwear was everywhere, shoes on the ground were messy, an ashtray was full of cigarette butts, and the quilt was also bunched up, a very real girl's residence. I'll call him. Hong Xing spoke, picked up the phone and called, and after connecting, she said with a whimper, Brother Ping, people miss you, they just miss you, oh, I miss you. Lu Feng was a little over the top. Do men in their 40s like this kind of tone? Then why don't you come? Hurry up, I'll take a shower and wait for you. Hong Xing hung up the phone and smiled at Lu Feng, it's done, are you going to hide? Okay, let me hide. Lu Feng felt that he should hide. Now Hao's hyping definitely doesn't want to see him. If he opens the door and sees him, he will definitely turn around and run away. But the house was in such a mess, there was no place to stay. Hong Xing also felt that there was no good place. She suddenly looked at the wardrobe and said, hide the wardrobe. Is there no clothes in the closet? Lu Feng wondered. No, my clothes are scattered all over the house. I dig a few pieces every day when I go out to dance. He is very close to me. Come in quickly. Lu Feng hid in the closet. In less than 5 minutes, Hao's hyping opened the door and walked in. He smelled of alcohol. He seemed to have just drank. He closed the door and looked at Hong Xing and smiled. Little slut, Xiaolang Ho, how can you call me? People miss you, others can't enter my heart, Hong Xing said with a smile. Well, I was itching for the humming on the phone just now. Don't worry, I drank wine tonight, so I don't need to take medicine, a hungry tiger rushed up. This is the first time that Lu Feng has been hiding in the closet to watch this. It is an experience that ordinary people have never had. Hao's hyping took a bit of alcoholism, and started to pull off his clothes. Hong Xing panicked. There were other people in this room, so he hurriedly said, don't tell me, maybe there are other people watching this room. Hao's hyping glanced at the opened curtains and smiled at her, isn't it more exciting? Stimulate. Hong Xing was dumbfounded, her eyes kept looking at the wardrobe, why didn't Lu Feng come out? Hao's hyping started to take off his clothes on his own, and just took off his trousers. Lu Feng saw the opportunity, slammed the cabinet door, and shouted, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Nemas. Hao's hyping was so frightened by this sudden shock that he rolled off the bed. Hong Xing covered his mouth and laughed when he saw that he was so funny. Don't you want to get to know President Lu? Isn't this way of meeting surprising? Hong Xing asked. Hao's hyping calmed down and didn't care about scolding Hong Xing. He stood up and walked out. He didn't want to see Lu Feng, he didn't want to. Now Lu Feng is second only to Lord Yama in his heart. President Hao, Don't go, Lu Feng rushed up with a single step. Hao's Haiping's pants were still around his ankles, so he couldn't walk fast. He didn't look at Lu Feng at all when he left the house, and walked while replacing his pants. Can you go? Lu Feng stood in front of him and said, since we've already met, can't we just sit down and talk? I don't know you, and I have nothing to talk to you about. You are my enemy. I will defend my elder brother to the death. Don't try to provoke our brotherhood. You have no way. Your methods are extremely low. Hao's Haiping was full of anger. Drink. Your eldest brother's boat is about to capsize. Let me tell you, Deminged, Ma Hun Tao, and eldest brother have been secretly filed for investigation. This is the document, please take a look. Lu Feng took the handbag and put the document was padded in his arms, and he asked, can you sit down and talk? Hao's Haiping glanced at the document, still with that unyielding expression on his face, and said solemnly, pour tea for President Lu. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 639. There was a cup of tea on the table. Hao's Haiping also sorted his clothes, sat on the sofa smoking a cigarette, flipped through the stack of documents in his hand, and frowned. Hong Xing, please read it for me. Hao's Haiping handed the document to Hong Xing. About the secret investigation of Deminged and others in the city. Hong Xing read. After listening, the room fell into silence. Hao's Haiping smoked a suffocating cigarette and brought the documents. He also dealt with some leaders of the township and saw what the documents were like. Lu Feng sat on the side and looked at his facial expression carefully. He saw Hao's Haiping gasping for breath, frowning and asking, how did you get it? Ordinary people can't get it. Don't wrinkle it. Lu Feng reached out and took the document, and said, I went to Huang Youwei's office to get it quietly this morning, and I have to send it back tomorrow morning. Then why did you tell me? Hao's Haiping is not stupid. Since the matter is already settled, he is useless at all, so Lu Feng is still looking for him. Asked, if you can do it directly with me, will the logistics industry be unimpeded? It's true that you think so, but I think differently from you. I never thought of completely destroying you. Although you have already succeeded, I am helping you to become more successful. Lu Feng said to him, do you understand? Towards more success, Hong Xing muttered. Yes, going from failure to success is the first step. I can make you go from success to more success, Lu Feng said to the two of them with a certain look. Golden Bee Logistics has been conceived like this since its inception. But it's because your eldest brother and third brother are too monopolized. Think about it, your fees are so expensive, and other companies don't need you if they don't need you. The market is destined to be a niche market if the unit price is too high. How much money can a niche market have? Think about it, 1 million more than 10%, or 50% of 100,000. What we have to do is to reduce the unit price, make the market huge, cooperate with logistics companies like you, and help you become bigger and stronger. What can I get? What I can get is that my own business is more convenient and costs are reduced. 1 point, the main income is still in your own pockets. I killed you all, and I can't live anymore. I don't want to kill you, I want to cooperate with you, understand? Lu Feng asked the two of them. Hao's Haiping's face suddenly understood. Hong Xing couldn't help but said, Mr. Lu, you are a bodhisattva. This is a bit exaggerated, half a bodhisattva. Lu Feng put the documents in his bag and said, Mr. Hao, you know the current trend in the logistics industry, and how many people are victims, so we won't talk about money, just talk about this. Can you see it? Righteous killing of relatives will not bring abuse, but will only be supported and loved. Where has Hao's Haiping ever heard such eloquent nonsense? It was a little lost for a while. The money was made, the reputation gained, and Hao's Hai got rid of it. This is a 3-win. In this case. Then thank you, Mr. Lu. With a smile on his face, Hao's Haiping shook Lu Feng's hand and said, "Mr. Lu, I really can't repay you for being so kind to me. Don't worry, as long as Deminged falls, Hao's Haihei's gang will be brought to justice in law. I will sign a contract with you as soon as possible, and set an example for other small companies in the logistics industry." Lu Feng was stunned for a moment. Why did he feel like this thank you was about to end? No, no, Lu Feng hurriedly stopped him and said, "Didn't you ask Hong Xin to find me some time ago, saying that you could provide evidence of Hao's Haihei's connection with Deminged and Ma Hun Tao? I'm looking for you today because I want these. Isn't it all said above? The case has been quietly filed for investigation, and you still want that information from me?" Hao's Haiping stared at Lu Feng suspiciously. "Don't be nervous, think about it. Why is it a secret case for investigation, not a direct zhuanghui?" Lu Feng leaned over and leaned back, and said in a low voice, "The top is afraid of the grass and the snake, and is slowly investigating. Think about it, so many things, it takes time to check, right?" Hao's Haiping was a little surprised, but when he thought about the situation Lu Feng was in, he understood. He just wanted to speed up the process. As for the authenticity of the document, he had no doubts. Hao's Haiping thought that with Lu Feng's identity and his relationship with Huang Youwei, all this was reasonable. And in his heart, Lu Feng is a decent person, and he can't do this. Hong Xin listened to it and understood that she felt that this was an opportunity for Hao's Haiping, so she couldn't help but persuade, "Brother Ping, it's definitely right to follow the big boss. Besides, what Hao's Haihei thinks of you is something you have in mind. Clearly, I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Look, even Hong Xin knows. Seeing that he was still hesitating, Lu Feng stood up abruptly, picked up his bag, and pretended to leave, saying to himself, "Whether a person can do great things depends on the decisiveness. Some people are ruined in this life, they forget their righteousness when they see small profits, and they cherish their bodies when they do big things. If they hesitate, don't do it at all." Lu Feng's words directly attacked Hao's Haiping's self-esteem. Hao's Haihei has always said that he has no brains and is suitable for doing errands. This has always made him uncomfortable. Now that Lu Feng has stimulated him, he has no time to think about it. He stood up and said, "Who said I was hesitant? Don't you just want those materials? After they go in, they're all wasted paper. Just wait, I'll send it to you overnight." "Okay, man enough," Lu Feng praised from the position at the door. "If you deliver it today, I promise you that tomorrow you will be able to get rid of all the pests." "Okay, deal." The two agreed on a time, and Lu Feng went downstairs and drove back to the factory to wait. There were only Hong Xin and Hao's Haiping left in the room. Hao's Haiping was very excited. At this moment, all he thought about was that after the brothers Hao's Haihei and Hao's Haipeng entered, he replaced the three companies. Thinking about it at that time, his mood was surging. "Brother Ping, after Hao's Haipeng goes in, I have no one to take care of. You must take care of others. I will follow you at ease in the future." Hong Xin leaned on Hao's Haiping's chest and whispered, "We enter the bedroom, you care about people. What time is it now? Still thinking about these messes? I'm someone who wants to do big things." Hao's Haiping scolded with a serious face. 5 minutes later, Hao's Haiping lifted his trousers and walked downstairs, muttering that women are really troublesome. After Lu Feng returned to the factory, he first called Huang Youwei to communicate. On the phone, Huang Youwei heard that the seal of the Jiafeng electronic outlet store was still stuck, and his face turned green. "Isn't this an obvious slap in the face? It's just that it's not easy to attack in front of Lu Feng," so he said solemnly, "This matter still needs to go through the process. You can't just remove it if you say it is removed, so what do the people think, right? But the problem is, he said it was sealed." Lu Feng could hear that he didn't want to worry about it, and the people below were also superficially dealing with the matter, and said, "Where are you now? I'll be a little bit dirty in a moment." The specialties will be delivered and brought to you. Souvenir. Huang Yowei didn't think much about it, and said, "Don't come here. If it's useful to give gifts, why is it so hard? It's just some of the characteristics of my hometown. It's not worth much. I'll let you try it. I'll see you in the office. By the way, I want to ask you something." Lu Feng thought about it and asked, "If you can take Deming with your own hands, Germany is pushed into the prison, will you push it?" "No," Huang Yowei said angrily, "I'm kicking my humming foot." Then I see Lu Feng hung up the phone after a few polite words. He could hear that Huang Yowei's grievance against Deming was not a day or two, especially in the recent period of time. It was just to take care of the overall situation, and it has not been released. In fact, it's not just partners like Huang Yowei and Deming who don't like each other, but many municipal teams are similar to middle-aged couples and make do with each other. Even if the two of them can't pee in a pot. At around 8 o'clock in the evening, Hao Haiping drove his car to the gate of Jiafeng Electronics factory. Lu Feng went downstairs, the window was lowered, and he took a leather bag from Hao Haiping's hand. It was heavy, weighing 5 or 6 pounds. "I believe that all those who have been oppressed by them will thank you. For them, you are electricity, you are light, and you are the only myth." Lu Feng reached into the car and patted him on the shoulder. "Do the right thing and walk the road." "Yeah," Hao Haiping nodded his head. A man in his 40s had lived for so many years, and it was the first time he felt that he was so great. He took a deep breath, and his sense of happiness was soaring as he drove towards the distance. "Go." Lu Feng took a brief look at the things. There are many photos and a complete set of documents. All of them are some case documents, bank records, and a very detailed record: time, place, person, money, event, everything is available. It's not a problem at all to sentence these people to life indefinitely based on this thing. Lu Feng didn't go upstairs, but drove directly towards the municipal government. When he got there, he stopped the car and saw Deming walking down. He stopped, stared at Lu Feng and said, "This is the point, are you still running here? You didn't get off work until this hour, so it's hard get off work." "It's not hard. If you think it's useful, run every day. I want you to recognize one thing. The world is not the world you knew before." After Deming finished speaking, he walked towards the car and got into the back seat. The driver asked, "Where are we going tonight?" Deming leaned on the car chair, closed his eyes, and said slowly after a while, "Go and grind soy milk." The driver immediately turned around and drove towards the bustling night market.